Open world games are getting more and more popular as time goes on, and gaming tech gets more and more sophisticated. Yes, some people are getting tired of them, and there's certainly some open world stinkers out there, but there are a ton of new ones coming out this year that look solid. So today, welcome to the page, everybody. Chaos here. We're going to show some love to the open world games of 2023. These are games that are coming out or already out in 2023. So you let me know which of these you're going to get. Drop that like, and we start off with the infamous, the decade-old Dead Island 2. Yep, that's right. After nearly a decade, the second Dead Island game is coming. Believe it or not, the first Dead Island launched back in 2011, and the sequel was first announced in 2004 at Yager Development, but that project jumped from studio to studio multiple times before the final version was completed. So after countless delays, this open-world zombie-slaying RPG is finally dropping April 21st, and so far, it looks good. The game is set in an open-world version of Los Angeles and San Francisco after the area is turned into a quarantine zone following a zombie outbreak. There's nothing new, nothing innovative about this, I get that, but the game has shifted directions multiple times during development, but it looks fun. It looks fun overall. I'm honestly excited for it just because we've waited a decade. It feels surreal to actually say we're going to get Dead Island 2 after this long, but I'm sure it will be at least a decent time. Hopefully this isn't another Duke Nukem Forever situation. Surely not, right? Diablo 4. No, I didn't make a mistake putting Diablo on the list. Blizzard confirmed last year that Diablo 4 is taking a bit of a new direction and actually adopting a truly open world format for its gameplay loop, and while that may seem like a horrible idea to longtime fans, maybe they're onto something. Blizzard really needs a win right now. They do, after they effectively drove their entire community away over the last few years, but the early gameplay of Diablo 4, it looks promising. It does. The story seems interesting, the reworked class system sounds addicting, and the way they're implementing an open world seems like a natural evolution for the franchise. Now, Diablo has one of the most addicting gameplay loops in gaming history, so assuming Blizzard hasn't totally lost their mind over the last couple years and they're taking this project seriously, I could see Diablo 4 being a success. Let's just hope that Blizzard's constant controversies have not doomed the game. At number 8, one that I'm excited for personally, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. By the time you see this video, we will have gotten a pretty lengthy look at the game during the state of play, and I'm a bit mixed. The gameplay looks solid, writing's top-notch, which should come as no surprise since this is the same team that made the Batman Arkham trilogy. However, the leaked Battle Pass and monetization systems over the last few months, they're following the game around like a bad smell, so I'm hoping the gameplay is able to make up for it. Warner Brothers recently struck gold with Hogwarts Legacy, which didn't have any kind of intrusive business model or micro DLC strategy, so I'm hoping the adjustments were made after the backlash following the Suicide Squad leaks because this game has potential. It can be a true return to form for Rocksteady. It's the first major game they put out since Arkham Knight, and while there's some criticisms I can make toward the visuals, I'm just excited to be back in the universe. Suicide Squad seems like a game that is going to set up a ton of awesome new things for the future, so hopefully it's a good game on its own. Rocksteady is one of my favorite superhero developers of all time, so I am behind this one. I really, really am. At number 7, in a game that's picking up a lot of steam, Redfall. An upcoming open-world FPS from Arcane Studios. It's got a bit of negative attention from Twitter, but I don't agree with the critics. Many people have been calling this game mid or generic, but I've also seen those same critics call other games that were absolute trash, and they called them amazing. Anyway, it looks fun. Arcane Studios has come up with some really awesome games, Dishonored, Deathloop, so even though Redfall looks less innovative than those projects, it could still be fun. The vibes of Massachusetts are eerie, and there's some awesome weapons at your disposal, and it's vampires. I do agree with people saying the enemy variety looks generic right now, but if the gameplay is fun, I'm okay with that. That always online policy is dumb, I'll give it that, so I'm kind of hoping Bethesda reverses that decision. At number 6, Valheim, the console version. Who remembers this game? Open world survival game, one of the biggest surprise hits of the last decade after it launched on Steam in early 2021. Now, it was developed by a small team called Iron Gate Studio. It takes place in a Viking afterworld where it's up to you to prove yourself worthy of entering Valhalla. You set up camp, you venture out to the hostile world, you conquer various foes, you collect loot along the way, you can do it alone, you can do it with friends. It was a success on PC. It sold over 10 million copies on Steam alone, so you should be excited to hear that the console versions are finally coming in a few months. Valheim is officially launching on the Xbox One and the Series X by the end of the year, and the PlayStation port isn't confirmed yet, but I wouldn't be shocked at all if it's not far behind. Pick up the game. If you're a fan of Norse mythology or survival games or Vikings or anything like that, I promise you won't be disappointed. At number 5, Hogwarts Legacy, the 8th gen version. Speaking of ports, Hogwarts Legacy is also going to extend its reign later this year when the 8th gen version trickles their way into people's homes. Fantasy RPG, set in the world of Harry Potter, easily one of the biggest games of the last decade, reportedly selling over 10 million copies in the first few weeks and breaking multiple records along the way for both Twitch viewership and Steam concurrent players. Initially, the game was supposed to launch on both the 8th and 9th gen systems at the same time, but following a few technical issues during development, Warner Brothers decided to stagger the launches throughout 2023 in order to give the developers more time to polish everything, which I think was the right call. The Wizarding RPG is currently available on the PC, PS5, Xbox Series, and it's coming to the Xbox One and PS4 on April 4th. The Switch, that's July 25th. So if you're using an older console or you're a Switch player, get ready. At number 4, Final Fantasy 16. Now, for a franchise called Final Fantasy, it sure has been going on for a long time. Are you guys tired of the joke yet? Let me know. Now, 16 is the first mainline entry in the series in over 5 years. And it's going to be pretty interesting to see how things play out given the fact that Final Fantasy is mostly known for its MMO spin-off FF14 now. FF16 is set to launch on the PS5 later this year. Yes, it's going to feature a gigantic open world. Yes, it's going to have an elaborate and epic story and breathtaking visuals. I mean, as you'd come to expect from a new Square Enix RPG, as long as it's not called Forspoken. Now, we're likely going to see a lot more of this game in the coming weeks since we're getting closer and closer to launch, but I know this one is going to be a huge deal when it finally drops. So, make sure you're on the lookout for news. Square Enix likes to be secretive about new Final Fantasy projects until they're coming up at launch, but that means we should be right around the corner for new trailers and new gameplay demonstrations. Fingers crossed we get some new material soon if we haven't already by the time you watch this video. At number 3, we actually just got this. Yes, we just got a trailer this morning right before I made this video for the Starfield launch. It's coming this fall. It's coming, allegedly. Now, Starfield is Bethesda's first original IP in decades, and considering how rocky their last few games were, this is make or break. If Starfield is good, it will prove that the team still has what it takes to stand with the big boys of game development. But if it's not, and it launches broken, this may be the end of Bethesda's first-party RPGs as we know them. I mean, looks of it, it's interesting, it's ambitious, it's huge. A galaxy-sized open world, a gameplay loop that the team has described as Skyrim in space. That's bold claims. Starfield has been delayed multiple times for polish, and it's not going to be launching on the PlayStation, which is a huge letdown for longtime Bethesda fans playing on Sony consoles, but both Bethesda and Microsoft are insistent the game is indeed coming this year, likely before the end of the summer, but now it is confirmed it will be here this fall. So hopefully we get more gameplay, we get more stuff. I mean, this needs to be good. Let's just put it that way. At number 2, a game I have no doubt is going to be amazing, Spider-Man 2. Yep. 2023 is going to be a pretty stacked year, and Spider-Man 2 is still one of the most hyped games coming out. Set to launch in the fall, Spider-Man 2 is going to be the follow-up to Insomniac Games' fantastic 2018 Spidey game that took a lot of cues from the Arkham franchise while putting its own spin on things and telling perhaps the best Spider-Man story in gaming history. Spider-Man 2 will star both Peter and Miles as they face off against villains like Venom, Kraven the Hunter, even rumors that Green Goblin will show up. Now with the PS5 launch scheduled for fall and a PC release likely later, probably a year later, Spider-Man 2 is one of the most hyped games of the year. But there's actually one more game that I think beats it in the hype department. At number 1 today, the best open world coming out in 2023 has to be Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. No shocker. I'm sure some of you may have put Spider-Man 2 there. 2023 is going to be a year of awesome open world sequels, and Tears of the Kingdom is going to get it all kicked off in a few months. The long-awaited follow-up to Breath of the Wild. This is the first direct sequel to a Zelda game since Majora's Mask all the way back on the Nintendo 64, and since it's a sequel to one of the greatest games ever made, people are hyped. The gameplay we've seen so far looks awesome, boasting a massive world and a huge improvement over Breath of the Wild's graphics while maintaining that iconic visual style. The game is set to launch on the Switch in May, so make sure you've got your money set aside, especially if you're hoping to get one of the limited edition Zelda Switch consoles while you're at it, because those are going to end up on eBay really fast. There you go. Those are games we're looking forward to. Let me know if I missed one, and I'll see you soon.